welcome back to my channel. This is your girl D Lizelle, and I am here to talk about the past, the present, and the future. So let's go jump straight into it. If this is your first time coming here, thank you. And if you are a returning subscriber, you're the real MVP. Thank you so much again. I do apologize in advance because you're going to be hearing the fan in the background as well. And you're also going to be hearing, you probably won't be able to hear it, I don't know, but I hope not, smoke detector alarm, which by the way, I did get a battery for it, but that battery went out pretty quick. But so I'm sorry if you be hearing those two noises in the background. So this video is going to be a very, very important topic to me, something that is very personal, and I chose to open up with and share with you guys because I believe that it is very, very important and something that is not talked about within our community. Mental health. Mental health is something that we all go through, especially in the Black community. It's not talked about within our families. We just deal with our people very differently, just we can sweep it under the rug as if nothing is going on. And it even starts in our children. For me, mine started from my childhood, I'm definitely gonna say. Being raised in the CPS systems, DCFS, or CPS, as most people know it is Child Protective Services, or in Chicago is DCFS, Department of Family Services, being a ward of the state, giving custody to the state of Illinois. I became ward of the state at a very young age. I had to be probably like around, as far as I can remember, probably from when I was 4, 5, maybe from that. That's as far back as I can remember. But my grandmother has always been the one that was taking care of me and my little brother, who now is 29. And he is in a wheelchair, and he will always be there for the rest of his life. He was born with cerebral palsy, so he can't walk, can't talk, he has a feeding tube. He was born because of my mother's drug use. Yeah, and I was born premature at 1 pound and 12 ounces, and I am my identical twin. Only difference is my twin sister died when we were babies, so she didn't make it. Her lungs collapsed, but I pulled through. And she was actually bigger than me, so she weighed 1 pound and 14 ounces. I weighed 1 pound and 12 ounces. At that time, my mother wasn't doing drugs. It was just she had already had an issue with carrying children. And after I came along, survived, I don't know how my mother got introduced into drugs. I've heard stories saying that my father introduced her to drugs, or, you know, some other male that she was hanging out. But I think my mother told me that her friend introduced her into the world of crack cocaine. And you know, back in the 80s, the 90s, you know, crack was big, that it was the big thing to do. And she just, my mother has been battling addiction all of my life, and I'm 36. I'm 36. So she's been battling addiction all of my life, as far as I can remember. My grandmother played a very, very important role in my life and in my little brother's life, because she took care of us until we got taken away from her. And I was still very young. I had to be probably like 7 or 8 when me and my little brother was taken away from my grandmother due to our house being a drug house. Now, despite everything with our house being one of the biggest drug houses on the block, we still had a childhood, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, our house was a house to be at. Like, no matter who you were, where you from, a walk of life, once my grandmother accepted you into the family, you were family. Everybody always lived at our house from the top to the basement. It was just a flow of traffic all the time, which was, now that I think about it, it's pretty much dangerous for a young girl like me who developed early body-wise in age and in mental due to that environment that I grew up in. I gotta tell people, I grew up in a thug-induced environment. People talking about these little gangbangers nowadays. I look at them and I laugh because I'm just like, y'all are not real thugs. I can show you a real thug. I can show you a real gangster. You know what I'm saying? And once I was taken away, once me and my brother actually was taken away from my grandmother because our house ended up getting raided, we were placed into placement with our grandfather and step-grandmother. Now, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the movie called Flowers in the Attic, but if you have not, I'm going to need you guys to go and research that movie. It is a very old movie, and I will say it's going to make you cry. And when you watch that, I'm going to tell you, that's how we were treated. If you ever watch the movie Flowers in the Attic, go watch it. That's how me and my little brother was treated. It was a horrible experience. Then I can remember my grandfather ended up getting run out of town because he owed some gangsters some money. So we ended up having to live with our step-grandmother. Horrible. You wanna know why? Because then I took on the parental role when it came to getting my little brother dressed. I needed to remind you, he's in a wheelchair. He has a feeding tube schedule, all of that. My grandfather was selling my little brother's insure. He was selling his insure, everything. So after being left there for years and years later, 3 years later, finally, we had got a visit from a social worker, and I told her exactly what was going on. And now this, I remind you, this time I am in the 4th, 5th grade, getting another child ready for school, getting up at 5 in the morning, getting him fed, turning on his tube, cleaning it. Everything that I'm doing at a young age, I took on that parental role of looking out for my older brother. And like I said, the social worker had finally came by and talked to us. And at the time, they were getting money for us. They weren't getting that much money for me because I was considered a regular child, but because my brother was special needs, that's where their bread and butter was coming from. That's where the paycheck was coming from. So she would always try to brainwash me not to say anything, but at this time I had peeped, what was going on. I'm not a stupid child or anything. So I told my caseworker exactly what was going on, the social worker exactly what was going on, because then, it became too much. And then, I would have to, like I say, get him ready for school, get him outside to get on the bus, put his wheelchair down there. And then I would have to get up and go to school and get ready for school myself. So people just did not understand. When I tell people I grew up way before my time, I matured before my time because I was forced to grow up at a young, very, very young age. And the social worker came to come my document and everything of what I was saying, but there's a thing. So she left. I'm thinking, oh good, they're gonna come back. They're going to take us away from here, but they didn't, not right away. It was literally 3 years later when they finally came and took my little brother away. And they took him to La Arbida Children's Hospital. I'll never forget. They came and took him like in the evening, and as what the caseworker reported, and when they got him to the hospital, he was diagnosed with malnutrition. Because like I said, he was getting a feeding tube, and he got out of school before me. So they had to, Myra, oops, sorry, I said her name, excuse me, sorry, didn't mean to say your name. My step-grandmother, somebody had to get him off the bus, right? So I guess in between that time, if I wasn't taking care of him, clearly nobody else was doing the proper thing to take care of him, because he required a lot. My little brother required a lot. He needed a 24-hour caretaker, and clearly, even though she was staying at home, whatever the case may be, she was working too. But on the days that she weren't working, it was like nothing. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, she had 2 more kids, which was my auntie and uncle. I didn't really care for them at all, because they treated us outcasts, all that stuff. At that time, my uncle had some issues going on. He didn't like me, but then he would try to fill on me and all that stuff. And I'm just like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Me being a child, I knew. So I knew he had some mental issues, and I ain't with the incest type shit. So my mom already knew, and I would tell his mother what was going on. She wouldn't believe me, this and that. So it was a lot that was going on behind closed doors that a lot of people didn't believe. And then but one person that always remained consistent in our lives was my grandmother. No matter where we went, even when we went over there. Then at one point, they actually allowed us to go back to our grandmother that we got taken away, because they actually had a private investigator on us, watching us. And when we went back to my grandmother, it was the best thing. We were so happy, everything. But because of the environment that we once lived in, the private investigator took the information back and found out, and then we ended up having to go back to there. And it was so much better when we did leave, and having to be enforced to go back to a place where you're being mistreated until they build up the evidence and build up the case, it was not fun. So like I say, fast forward to 3 years later, they came and took my little brother. I'll never forget, in an ambulance. And I'm looking like, oh good. I was deep down inside, I was happy. But then they left me behind. Another 3 years later, I'm finally getting taken out of the house and going to a better place. And I'll never forget her somber goodbye. I didn't want to give her a hug. I didn't even talk to my auntie and uncle. Peace, bye. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm pretty sure any place is going to be better than this piece of shit. That's how I was feeling. Needless to say, we had to transfer to school. So I bounced around a lot. Stability was not my friend when I was a kid. And at that time, in between time, I had lost communication with where my little brother was. I just knew he was at La Arbida Children's Hospital. He was diagnosed with malnutrition. And he ended up staying in there for 2 years. 2 years. Until they actually cleaned him up, put some weight on him. They had to take the tube at him because they had set up an infection. Like, I did not know that I was in the midst of about to lose my little brother. Like, he could have died. And I did not know. But God put me in a position mentally to be able to get him saved and get him out of there. And I'll never forget that. So we ended up, well, before they came and took me away within them 3 years, we ended up traveling to Mississippi down to where my grandfather had pretty much fled to. And down there, which was his side of the family, which was my real family, which was my mom's dad, I met my family and it felt so freaking good. Like my auntie, I remember down there even offered to keep me, and she did not. Let me tell you, my auntie was a beast. Her name was Queen Anne, a real name. They call her Queenie for short, Queenie for short. And they just treated me so openly because they, like, your blood. They, from day one, it's like, we know you blood. You are, you know, ours. Your auntie and uncle now, they didn't look at them as being blood, you know. Because at one point, my auntie was like, them kids ain't even my granddaddies. That's how she felt. And she always felt that way. Always felt that way. And one time, my auntie saw the way that my step-grandmother was treating me, and my cousin and my auntie went in on her. And she was my great aunt. That's who we went to go see. So that was my grandfather's sister, my mom's auntie, which was my great aunt. And I met my cousins and everything. It was so loving the way they excuse me, treated me and accepted me, and they, you know, accepted me. And then my grandfather's kids, which was my auntie and uncle, they felt some type of way about that. Now, let me tell you, my auntie and uncle, they was around my age. We was all around the same age. But they felt some type of way about that because you know, they just felt some type of way about it. So then I can remember after they went in, after my great auntie and her daughter, which was my cousin, went in on my step grandmother, before they come in and they saw what she was doing, she was mistreating me. She felt some type of way about it the rest of the trip. The rest of the trip, she even came up to me, said some few words. Once again, and this time my granddad heard it, and he went in on her too. So he came back and was like, you know what? He told me, he was like, I apologize for leaving you with her, but I had to get out of there. He never went into detail of what happened, but I'm not stupid. Like I said, I was a very smart child. And, you know, it was just the whole vacation. I loved it. But going back, and I declined my great auntie's offer to come and live with her because I did not want to leave my little brother in another state and too far behind. You know, granted, I know things would have been different. I felt like they would have if I would have just left and went to Mississippi and stayed there. But I didn't want to leave my little brother behind. I refused to do that. You know, I could not leave him in another state. I couldn't. So, with a bittersweet moment in my eyes and tears in my eyes, when it was time for us to come back, I came back with them. Excuse me. So after that, then that's when, like I say, after that trip, it was just even got worse. Yeah. So fast forward. They finally come back and pick me up. A social worker, police, the sheriff, and a caseworker. I remember they pulled up, they came, finally got me, had me pack up my stuff, and came and got me from the house after I got out of school. They had already had my paperwork, so I did not know I was leaving. There was no increment when you're gonna get taken away. They just show up. They don't make appointments. They just show up, right? So finally come and take me away from there. So I get placed in my first official foster home after that. I will say first official because I did not know this lady at all. Did not know her at Only thing is, I know I long to be with my grandmother. Despite all of this, I just wanted to be back with my granny. I just miss my granny. I miss my brother. Still didn't know where he was after that. You know, I just wanted to just go. So I get placed with this lady. In the beginning, it was nice, it was cool, but like all good things must come to an end. As time went on, now I lived with her the longest. Well, I will not say the longest, but I lived with her, yeah, for a long time. I definitely would say that. And she had other foster children as well. I wasn't the only teenager she had took on. It was like three of us, three, 4 teenagers she took on. But she only would have like only 3 foster children at a time. Because she was an older lady. She was like in her 60s already. And she was a Jehovah's Witness. So she tried to force her religion on me. And I've never really liked having to wear skirts all the time. That was never my forte. So, you know, it was just, and granted, I met some really cool people, some of the dope people on the time. And it was just like, I didn't want that. You know, like, I didn't want to. Our religion, being a Jehovah's Witness, it was really never my thing. You know what I'm saying? I went, of course, I had no choice but to get up and go. But it just wasn't for me. I never liked it. So, living with her started out cool, whatever. It was stable, stability. It was cool. She provided for us, you know, but, and then she's the one who low-key got me into thrifting. Like, she would get my clothes from a thrift store. Which at first I did not like it, but when I started, you know, coming across like some pretty cool finds as I became older, I'm like, okay, you know, now I like going shopping at thrift stores. I get to mix it up. But so I never received anything new in my life after my grandmother. One thing I will say, when me and my brother lived with my grandmother, we had every Jordan, we had all type of stuff. We pretty much got any and everything that we wanted. And people say, oh, we were spoiled. Yes, we were spoiled. But I was still a smart kid despite any and everything I was going through. I got all A's and B's. I never got not one C on my report cards. So, you know, and I low-key, I think my grandmother had guilt for what was going on within the house. And my grandmother protected us. Because now that I think about it, it was so much going on in the house that in situations where I could have been molested, I could have been raped, anything. And my grandmother, they did not try her at all. And they knew who I was. And even though I had grown men leering and looking at me in a sexual manner, they never tried anything. They was crazy, but they weren't that crazy across the line. My grandmother, and I just thank God for that. Because that situation, could have been so much worse could have came out of that whole thing. But it never did. So, what was I? Fast forward, yeah. Lived with this lady on up until I graduated to high school. So I would end up transferring to a junior high. So I never went after that. I never went to a regular grade school after that. I never transferred to a junior high. When I was in grade school, I was actually a year behind because of what happened. You know, with living with, like I said, we bounced around. So I ended up being a year behind at first. But when I got to junior high, I was able to test out. So when I took the test, I tested so high that I was able to graduate. And because of that, I was able to catch up with my class. So I graduated from junior high a year early, which actually put me right on track to become a freshman. I think the junior high only had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So it was only 3 grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And the school was called Rico Virginia High. If you don't know about that, you probably don't know. If you're not from Chicago, the suburbs, it's in this little town called South Village. um, south suburbs of Chicago, and it's still there today. And then after I moved, we ended up moving from there after I graduated, because she ended up getting a little house. So, and we ended up moving to Park Forest. Park Forest is another suburb of Chicago, Illinois, literally 2-3 stops away from Sauk Village. Like, literally 10-minute drive from Sauk Village, if that. So we ended up moving to Park Forest, and that's where I started my high school career. And when I became high school, granted, it was still, now, she had this grandson who had schizophrenia. He was cool or whatever, but he liked me, and she knew that, and she protected me from him as well. Like, he never tried anything with me, none of that, but she was just like, she can tell if she don't like some of the things he had said to me. So she's actually stopped him from coming over, because he was in the midst of trying to live with her. She had allowed it at first, but if you have somebody with a mental problem and you have foster kids, you cannot allow them to live together. Exactly. So you can't have a person with mental problems living with your foster children. That's a big no-no. So she ended up sending him back to his dad's house. Because she realized she had all girls in the house. All girls. Come this grown man with a schizophrenia mental problem who's sexually attracted to one of the girls. And I'm a teenager at this time. By this time I'm a teenager now. So I'm gonna start my freshman year at Richie's High School in Park Forest. And even though things was going, I still had become unhappy and all that, still was missing home. I got into sports, and I got into the debate club, and I got into this work study program called DECA. I love DECA because I ended up, being able to get a job and all that stuff. And I love the program DECA because it really helped. And with me getting into sports, becoming a jock, I played softball. I didn't run track. I tried to run track. It did not work out for me. So I played softball and I played volleyball. I was on debate, and I did yearbook, and I was a photographer. I did photography. I was a photographer for the yearbook and newspaper, which I loved being in yearbook and newspaper. So those things kept me on track academic wise, and it gave me something to do, and it gave, helped me to get out and get my mind off a lot of things. So, I remember, and the reason why I ended up getting taken away from her was because she actually beat me with an extension cord. And I'm light skinned, y'all, so I bruised easily. The bruises were a lot worse than what they look. And at Richie's, we didn't have uniforms, so you just wear whatever you want to wear to school, so that was that. And and it's the reason why I ended up coming home late, but I was right across the street, so she could have walked across there and actually inquired about what I was doing. I was at volleyball practice, and volleyball practice went a little late. Now, let me tell you, I didn't have a cell phone because she wouldn't allow me to have a cell phone. So here I am, starting in high school. You know what I'm saying? Wearing these thrift store clothes. Pretty much, knockoff shoes, whatever. Thrifted shoes, clothes. The only thing that wasn't thrifted was my panties and bras. Thank God it was only new. And my hair stayed done. So that's the only thing. Now, when my grandmother, like I said, the only person that still remained consistent in my life was my grandmother. So when my grandmother would bring me some new clothes and shoes and all that stuff, she would take them and put them up, and she would disperse them, to me as whatever. And I did not like that at all. So, yeah, that was a problem with me. So I ended up going to school, ended up getting into her coming home. She, by her being an older lady, I was not about to fight her because I wanted to respect my elders. But lady, not finna fucking beat me with a damn extension cord from the fucking iron. No. But that's what happened because I wouldn't fight it back. So, and she thought, I don't know why she thought this, but she thought I was out with some boy. I was still a virgin. I didn't start fucking until college. I was 21. 21 when I started fucking. Okay? 21 when I started doing the next. So, I was all about working. I was all about being into school, sports, activities, you know, academics. That like I said, that's what helped me to get through academics. That's what helped my academics. So I brushed off whatever. The webs, it was terrible on me because I had bruises all over my body. And although at the time I secretly did have a boyfriend, and I guess what? I met him because I found out that we both, well, me and his sister was best friends already going in. So we was best friends throughout our whole college, and I've always had a crush on her older brother. At the time, he was a senior, and no, he was a junior, and I was a freshman. And kind of find out at one of the Jehovah's Witness conventions, that's how we found out, like, you are, oh my God, you know, so that made us connect even more. But we kept our relationship a secret, but our friends knew in school, his sister knew, or whatever, you know, that we had a relationship, but we both were virgins and we didn't do anything. We, as far as we ever went was a kiss on the lips and we hold hands. And he was in choir and he was on track. Him and his sister both was on track, and they was, he was in choir and all that stuff. So I just never forget it. He was actually my real first true love, I would say. High school sweethearts. So we never did anything at all. And she just assumed that I was out with some boy when I wasn't at all. So the next day I went to school. He met me at my locker and he was like, what's wrong? You know, he tried to touch me and he was like, why you got on long sleeves? It's too hot. So he always used to kiss my shoulder. Don't know why, but that was always his thing. He used to kiss my forehead and my shoulder. That was his thing. So when he pulled my shirt down and tried to kiss my shoulder, he saw that I had a bruise right there. And he looked, and he was like, are you okay? And I'm like, you know, pulled it up. I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. Then he lifted up my sleeve and he was like, oh no, come here. So we went into the choir room, which was empty, but they always keep it unlocked. And he was like, let me see your arm, like what's going on? So I had on my volleyball t-shirt, and because I was gonna go to practice after school, and he saw the bruises on me, and he got so upset. He was like, who did this? He was like, you finna tell me what happened, you gonna tell me what happened now. He was like, who did this? So he was really upset, and I broke down in tears, told him what happened, you know, while I'm trying to pull my shirt back up, and he's like, nah. So after that, he just took me by the hand and stormed out of the choir room. He took me straight to the nurse's office. Before I can even get out what happened, he told the nurse what happened. He was like, please don't let it go back, this and that. And so he told the nurse what happened, and he showed him my bruises, and the nurse kept me that. And right after that, I did not go back to that house at all. That day, I did not go back. I did not go back to that house. Police came. The dean came and talked to me. And I ended up leaving once again. Leaving to go to I don't know where. So before they could place me, which was going to be an emergency placement, they had to find me somewhere to go. So for emergency placement, don't nobody really want a teenager. I'm just gonna say that right now. When it comes to the foster care system, nobody wants a teenager because we come with problems and issues, and we already set in our ways according to them. You know, we have more mental issues, and it's easier to get a little child or a baby because you can always mold their little minds and, you know, bring them out of it, versus with a teenager, it's a lot harder. But throughout all of this, God was still with me. So because of emergency placement, it is hard last minute. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is, to find a foster child somewhere to go. So I ended up having to go to a shelter. Pretty much the shelters where they house teenagers who run away or they're looking for a transitional living, or are looking for foster homes. So it was a transition shelter, basically, for kids who need placements, whether they are finna age out or whatever. So I ended up staying there for about a month. I want to say probably for about a month. And I ended up leaving from there, finally got placed in another foster home. So this foster home was my final destination. This is where I had stopped and lived and finished out high school and even into my adult years. And even to this day, I still keep in touch with my foster mom, even to this day. And granted, living in that house, it was hard because she was a single foster parent, and she loved teens. Her thing was she's always worked with teenagers. You know, that's all what she's done. So, and then when it came to them, they was like, well, you know, we don't want to take her out of school because now she's in her high school years, and, you know, she's going to be graduating soon, and we don't want her to have to, you know, pick up and leave in the middle of a semester and then get behind and have to do double to make up. So even though living in her house was supposed to be temporary, it turned out to be a permanent stay, which was a blessing because I ended up meeting some awesome foster brothers and sisters along the way. Two of them, which we call the beginning pack, we have been with each other, still in each other's lives, and I consider them my sisters, not my foster sisters, because they really helped. We helped each other and helped me to get through. We helped each other to get through some of the most hardest, difficult times when it came to living with this lady. Now, she wasn't a terrible foster mom. She just had to learn how to stop yelling at us for every little thing all the time. She grew with us as we grew with her, I will say. She really helped a lot along the way. She really just wanted the best. And now, you know, I didn't understand her parenting skills, none of that. Now, needless to say, she never had kids of her own. And having daughters and sons, that's all she ever wanted was kids. So I understood why she started this continuation, because it cut me off. So my foster mom, she took on a lot of teenagers, which I understand totally. You know, about everything that's been going on. So I get it. You know, all of it. So she really taught us a lot. And I realized she really wanted the best for us. But when it comes to her family accepted us as if we were their own. But no matter where I went to or who, even though her family accepted us, they didn't treat us any different. It was like you always knew that you didn't belong. And it was growing up with that feeling of like, okay, I see what they're trying to do, trying to accept us. They don't treat us any different because they know this is what she do. But I don't belong with y'all. I don't belong. And it was always that feeling deep down inside, like, you know you don't belong. You know. And that is something that I've always had to deal with and struggle with. And like I say, once again, my grandmother was consistent though. My grandmother was still the consistent person in my life. when I graduated from junior high, when I graduated from high school, when I graduated from college, my grandmother was there for all the moments. When I had my son, granted, I ended up leaving. Well, I'm gonna get into that. It's probably another story time. But she was always that most consistent person in my life, you know, and having to do that, it was a lot. So I do really thank her because, you know, she gave me stability. You know, she gave us stability. I'm definitely gonna say, and she took care of us, and we worked, and you know, it was fun. I'm definitely gonna say that much. You know, it was definitely a lot. I'm definitely gonna say that it was definitely a lot, but she took care of us. So, you know, she treated us. You know, when we would go out in public, we would be like, "Mom, you know," they'd be like, "These your daughters?" She was like, "Oh yeah, I have grown daughters." And she used to get a kick out of it. She used to, you know, love it and all. It's like, "You do not look like you have grown daughters," and it was, yeah, it was awesome. So she really was a great foster parent, one of the most stablest foster parents that I've had in my life. So I do owe a lot to her. And fast forward, you know, college years was bomb. I finished college. Actually, yeah, I finished college 3 times. Graduated from college 3 times. I have degrees, I have certifications. So, you know, and I pushed myself through school because my parents didn't finish school. I don't even know what my dad's, I think he has a degree, but I know my mom didn't finish at all. And both my parents are still alive. And they still have their own struggles. Now me, I do not have a relationship with my father. That is something that I still struggle with, and still, even to this day, have tried to develop with him, have tried to reach out to him, and, you know, develop on my own, but I don't know, it just didn't pan out that way. But this is a new year, and I'm not gonna give up. I'm still gonna try to reach out to him and develop a relationship with him. I've reconnected with his brother, which is my uncle. So we're gonna see what 2021 brings. Fast forward through all of that. Come 2018, I ended up having to move. I started a new job, and then I lost the most important pillar in my life, which was my grandmother. She died. She passed away unexpectedly. Through that is really, I would say, what triggered my mental break. And I can honestly say everything that I had been harboring and holding on from childhood, I was trying not to let it affect me as an adult. But because I suppressed so much, you know, and still was around to function and try to act like it never, you know, but it's a part of my life as an adult, a lot of key points and stuff that I'm missing because, you know, stuff that stemmed from my childhood. And I did not realize how not having a relationship with my father, having this, you know, once in a lifetime man pop up in and out of my life really affected me. Really pretty much not having both my parents in my life, and growing up, pretty much I had to grow up myself and then call a complete other stranger a parenting figure in my life that I had to come to learn and come to know, but she had to come to learn and come to know me, my habits, and this and that, and how I operate and who I am. That was a lot, and it affected how I operate and view and look at people. People say, like, I'm a very personal person. Have to deal with having my selfish moments. I have to deal with being jealous. I have to deal with being a possessive person. And I know the possessiveness of, you know, mine, you know, stemmed from me being a child, because everything that I've had have always been taken away from me, you know. So when it comes to me having a man in my life, no, I don't want to share it with nobody. I don't want to, you know, when it comes to my kid, I don't want to share my kid with nobody, but he's my son, you know, he's a kid. He has other family members that want to see him, you know, and I have to stop realizing, okay, it's okay to share. They're going to come back. You know, they're not being taken away from you per se, and that's how I feel. And now I know where it comes from, because everything that I have had worked for or wanted in my life or had gotten as a child, like I say, it was taken away from me. So nothing really stayed mine when it was supposed to be mine. But back to what I was saying. When my grandmother passed away, I didn't even properly grieve because I was too busy preparing her funeral. And thank God she had insurance, life insurance, but all the other stuff that the life insurance only covers the burial and the service. That's it. It does not cover the clothing, the food, and all that stuff, repast food, and all that other things that you have to buy. So I pretty much, everything was like on me. So I didn't even properly grieve my grandmother. Like, I was there on up until she passed. I knew my grandmother was going to pass before she passed. I knew it. I felt it. And it was so unexpected. And in my mind, to this day, my grandmother should still be here celebrating 2021. I should not be going without any holidays. But losing my grandmother, like I said, that was my trigger for my mental breakdown. And what was so crazy about it, I hid my breakdown from people. I think my boyfriend at that time, I know he was noticing probably I was breaking down, but he didn't really want to say nothing because he did not know how to comfort me. Because I was still going about my day as a zombie, literally. I felt like a zombie. I was literally still functioning. But I would go in my room and I would just sleep all day. I fell into a depression. I would go to work, come home. My son was there, but it was like, for me, I was empty. And then everybody was still like over our house. So after my granny passed, I couldn't grieve. I talked to like one of my friends, and he was just like, you know, now that granny gone, he's like, you know, granny was the matriarch of the family, basically. And he was like, now it's like, Mel, like you are now. He was like, you are the matriarch of the family now. And when he told me that, it broke me even more, because I'm like, that's heavy. That's heavy. I don't want to be. I don't want to be. But I inherited this by default. It's like, I don't want to be. I never want to be. You know, your grandparents are supposed to be your legacy, your legends, your legacy, you know, and pass down things to you. That's from generation to generation. And here I am, the responsibility of, you know, being a matriarch of the family, picking up, pretty much taking on a job that my grandmother had. And it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't. But now I look at it like the main people in my life, they will be so lost. So lost without me. Because after my granny passed, it was like I looked around and I just took in everybody. When the people, family members that was over my house, I just sat there. One time I sat on the stairs and I just looked at everybody. And even though I was sitting there just looking at everybody, it felt like I wasn't there. I felt like I was there, but they couldn't see me. I was invisible for a moment. And I just scanned the room, and I took in everyone's energy. And I can always remember my grandmother telling me that I'm her empath child and I'm her healer, which I still didn't understand what that meant until, you know, later on in my adult years. Literally until last year. No, a couple years ago. And now that I think about it, it's still a lot. And like I said, I just took in everybody's different type of energies, and it was like, this family is very dysfunctional. But it works. And these are the people that's going to be in my life, whether I like it or not. They're family. And it's up to me to make sure that they're good and take care of them. Because that's how my granny operated. But the more I said that, the more I felt heavy. I didn't feel like myself. I knew I wasn't myself. But at the time, I didn't care. Because I'm just like, well, maybe if I try to suppress this, hide this, you know, nobody will notice. And I don't think anybody did notice that I was literally going through a breakdown, mental breakdown. And I felt myself going there. I knew I was going there, but I was still functioning. You know, I was still functioning. And I was still functioning. You know, I was still functioning. And I had to think about my child. You know, and after that, it's just like a lot of stuff suffered. And that's what really triggered, like I say, my mental break. And I still deal with a lot. But it's way less than what I did in the beginning after my granny passed. Because I've accepted a lot more stuff, and instead of being in denial about it, I've accepted a lot more. And now I'm learning how to cope with it, you know, with the therapy. It's helping me to actually target things, my anger issues, why I'm so possessive, jealousy, you know, well, I'm standoffish. Everything plays a whole part, everything. So it really helped to really come to full terms to understand who I really am and how my brain is working and where did everything all stem from. So definitely it's a lot. I don't know where my life is going to be and how it's going to end. What I'm definitely going to say is I'm going to keep striving, and I'm going to keep pushing on. I'm going to keep moving on, and I'm going to stay positive. Because now that I know where my mental health issues stem from, getting help is what really is important. You know, I've been through a lot, and we all been through a lot. And when you have to find ways, sometimes I've known people like who've taken their lives, suicide, you know, because they couldn't deal with what was going on in their mental, you know what I mean? Because of all that. And I have a child to think about. I have a relationship, you know, want to get married one day. I want to have another child. I want to have a daughter. I want my career, my business to take off. I have goals and shit to reach. And I cannot reach them if I'm not functioning mentally. If I'm not functioning mentally and physically at 100%. I can't be a mother if I'm not functioning. I can't be a sister. I can't be a wife one day. I can't be none of these persons that I aspire to be if I'm not functioning mentally at 100%. Because if I'm not functioning mentally at 100%, I'm going to start feeling it physically. And that's what I don't want. And so, now that I think about it, now we in 2021, who would have never told me over here to see the future, man? Like, 2021 is really into the future. Like, it's going to be 2022 next year. Like, that's crazy. That don't even sound right. Like, we're living in the future. But as desolate as it is, it's more like Mad Max type of future, really. Seriously. With this coronavirus and all that stuff, it's just like, you know, at this point, hell, blessed to see this year. Because there's a lot of people that died on Christmas. There's a lot of people that died with last year that did not get a chance to see January 1st because of them passing away due to the virus or some other type of violence or taking their own lives. And the coronavirus really, really messed up a lot of people mentally as well. It's a lot of people that committed suicide during this pandemic, because the pandemic, it brought out the worst in people. You saw the riots, you saw the police brutalities. It was a lot on people mental, and they couldn't handle it. Some people walk away from their families, went missing, disappeared. And that's a lot. I've lost a lot of coworkers who caught COVID. And it's a lot. It is a lot. So this year, to start off in a positive way for me, because I'm really good at manifesting the things that I want in my life. And one thing I can tell people is that I've always been blessed. And I know that, and I'm humbled to know that, and I would never, ever, ever lose my faith and my spirituality. Now that I'm getting into spirituality, that's helping me. Now I know how my other side of my other thinking process, and I know the connection that me and God have and the universe has. So the more I get into learning about my spirituality, the more in faith, I am all for it, and I cannot wait to continue to manifest the things that I want. Because every single thing that I prayed for, that's because I manifested it. And every single thing that I manifested, I know I get, and that's how I'm going to keep it. But I have to make sure that I'm doing my part as well as putting in the work. So this year, I'm going to continue to do a lot of healing. So that's my thing. Healing is my thing. I'm going to continue doing a lot of that. So healing is where I'm definitely going to keep doing. And to start off this year pretty right, I decided to get me a manifestation journal. It's called Law of Attraction / Manifestation Journal. It's all the same. It's actually a planner and a journal all in one. And I got this. See, it says, be the energy you want to attract. And I got this this from this company called Freedom Mastery. I actually ordered it off of Amazon, and I cannot wait to start using it. This is what it looks like. So this year, I'm going to be writing down some of everything. And when you open it, I don't want the things to fall out of here. It comes with a card. Like I said, a journal, a planner, everything in here. So when I start writing in here, I just can't wait to see what things are going to do. And since I have to work tonight, I'm actually going to take it with me, and I'm going to start writing some things here. I wanted to start writing in it January the 1st, but I didn't receive it. Actually, I'm lying. I received it before January the 1st, but it's still the beginning of the year, so I'm definitely going to start writing in this tonight when I go to work. I'm just gonna start manifesting and be positive, and I'm really going to still stick to my the therapy sessions. It's definitely working on my mental. Keep working on your mental. Like, it is never too late to get help. It is never too late to get help at all, to finish what you start. If you have a dream, go for it. If you want to start that business, go for it. Nothing is holding you back except for yourself. And if you at the point where you know you're dealing with some mental issues, and you say, you know what, I need help. Therapy. Or talk to someone. You don't even have to be a therapist. You can talk to a pastor, talk to a friend, talk to a professional. They can help you. Writing down stuff, coping with whatever. But don't be afraid to better yourself. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm going through something, and actually realize it's okay to not be okay. Don't do like I did. I told y'all my story of everything that I've been through, and I suppressed it and didn't want to recognize that the issues that I have mentally stemmed from my childhood. But I had to accept that, and I'm glad I did. So thank you for watching, because this was part 2 of the continuation. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. And happy 2021, and let's get your dreams up and going. Let's get your mental health, let's get you healthy, let's get you stable. Let's do it together. So everybody be blessed, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.